Welcome back. Skills and ability checks are something I find very important, and so do talk about them more in my videos. I do encourage people to use them. I encourage players to understand how you can use them more, so you can suggest it to your DM right out of the Dungeon Master's Guide. The advice is that players negotiate with the DM to use them more. And I do hope that DMs watch these videos and learn new ways they can use them or additional ways they can use them more. I do think it is a tragedy to put skills proficiencies on players for players to put them on their character sheet and then never get to use them. And a lot of the time that's because the DM just doesn't call for it, or the DM doesn't call for it. There's a lot of reasons why DMs don't. Usually it's not because of choice. It's not like the DM just doesn't want to use them, right? As a DM, we have a lot going on, right? It's hard to remember everything, and that is just the way it is, right? Because we're not perfect. And it is a lot to DM. Okay, so players, please keep that in mind when you suggest things to your DM. Like, be cool about it. Don't be a jerk to your DM. Like, why don't you use this more? Right? It's just hard to remember all this stuff, guys. So, all right. So I do want. It is important to me. I am creating a playlist for just my advice videos on how to use skills and ability checks more often. I'm going to add to it, and I wanted to separate it out. So it's going to be a playlist of just skills and ability checks. And I started my journey into skills and ability check videos with this video that I did on spellcasting roleplay, and it ended with a little 5-minute bit on how you can leverage skill proficiencies with spellcasting. And I decided, instead of just re-recording it, which kind of felt disingenuous, I just cut that piece out and I'm going to put it in here, and this is going to be the intro for that. And so that's why it's going to look a little bit different, a little bit disjointed, wearing a different shirt. And it's also before I got better with my graphic arts, graphic design work, so it doesn't look as good as what I've been doing lately either. But anyway, yeah. So that's this snippet there, and I hope this playlist is something you find valuable and helpful. I know I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it. I've got a lot of player live feedback when I DM that they enjoy being able to use their skill proficiencies and ability checks more often, and feel like what they put on their character sheet matters, which is the whole goal. All right. Um, sorry, the goal is the actual goal is to have more fun, right? And players getting to use the things they decided to put on their character sheet makes it feel worthwhile. And when they feel like their decisions are more worthwhile, they have more fun. And fun is the point. Fun is the goal, right? That's what we're always shooting for. Okay. This is a bit more for DMs, but as everything goes with skill checks in 5th edition, it more or less comes down to whatever the DM feels like, plus whatever the PCs ask for. So the players, you can, like, one of the lines right in the 2024 handbook says, yeah, let the players negotiate with you to see if they can use their skills for this thing. Like, that's the rules for skill checks, is like the players should just be saying, like, can I try this? Can I use this? Which is great for openness. It's not great for guidance, to help us, either of us on the player or the DM side, come up with concrete uses for these things. And that's one of the reasons, in my opinion, why skill checks often just don't get used very much. And skill proficiencies, like many of the skill proficiencies, are just never used, which is unfortunate, and it shouldn't be that way. So this idea comes from, and I've been using this for a long time, comes from this book, or the genesis of the idea was from this book as well, which was in Dark Sun. It was a big deal to try to hide your spellcasting, which is why they also had, added in all those special, or those sensory effects from your spellcasting to make it more identifiable that you are casting a spell. Because wizards of all kinds, no matter what your alignment was, or whether you're a preserver or a defiler, were hated and reviled in general by the populace. If the general population saw you casting a spell, they would probably form a mob and try to kill you. And so it was also very important to try to hide it. And so they had these skill proficiencies right in that book that you could take, that would allow you to try to hide your sensory effects from your spell casting, so people wouldn't notice, even if the spell itself didn't have a visible, perceptible effect. You could also hide your secondary sensory effects caused by spell casting. Right. So the idea for that I've used in 5th edition ever since I started, and that is that you can try to hide your verbal, somatic, and material spell components. Now, you can't make them not exist. So these checks, even if you succeed, will not make it so that the verbal component doesn't break your stealth. It just means that the observers won't recognize it as a verbal component of spellcasting. So my suggestion is, yeah, you can have the players and let them know in advance that they can roll performance to try to hide verbal, somatic, or material components as non-spellcasting, right? The observers automatically perceive that they're doing these things. You just hide it as something else. Like maybe you're disguise the verbal components as part of a song. You just kind of burst out in song and you're hiding the verbal components. Same thing, you know. It's you're not you hide the somatic components as like you waving your arms, gesticulating as part of your conversation, or I don't know, dancing. And then I allow a deception check instead for verbal, or if you don't have performance, you can do a sleight of hand for somatic and material. So that way performance is a little better because you can, with one check, hide all three. If you don't have performance, you can then attempt deception and sleight of hand to hide, you know, if all three of the other spell components. So you'd have to make 2 checks. And I wouldn't do a separate check. Like if you have performance, if the PC has performance, don't make them roll 3 times because that's boring and just time consuming. So just have them roll once. Make the DC set to like the observer's passive insight or passive investigation. Yeah, probably whichever one's higher. And if they beat that with their skill check, then their spell casting is not noticed. And this I think is really important for those social encounters where you want to charm person, right? This is one of the reasons why not having this is one of the reasons why charm person never gets used, because if you cast charm person in front of somebody while you're having a social encounter, you might just cause combat, right? They see you casting a spell automatically and automatically become hostile, right? And then what's the point? So this way, it gives the PCs a chance to try to hide these things. Or if they want to like use guidance during their conversation, you can attempt that with these kind of rules, with these kind of checks. And this is rules is written, but only because there's not rules defining this, right? The rule is just negotiate with your DM. So this isn't even homebrew. This is just the DM fiat for deciding, you know, what can you use skill checks for. All right, and that's the last I've got for today. So I hope you thought, you know, you found this useful. I hope it contributes to your role play. Sorry if it wasn't like the most exciting, you know, data-driven analytics, insight kind of stuff for mechanics, but you know, role play, guys, is just as important as the mechanical power of your player character, right? Like I say all the time, if you stop role playing because you rolled initiative, combat is going to suck. It's not going to be fun, right? At least eventually, right? It might be fun a few times. It might be fun for an hour. It gets old fast if nobody's role playing during combat. So use this stuff to try to help you to role play more during combat and also leverage more skill checks and allow you to use spell casting during social encounters without causing combat. Okay. And DMs or other people out there, if you have other ideas for how to do this kind of stuff better, things I didn't think of, I'm sure there's all kinds of things I haven't thought of. So drop it in the comments. Let me know what other things other ideas you all have, and maybe I'll do another version of this to just, you know, get more and more ideas out there. In fact, I've already had some of my other players suggest things, so I'm getting lots of great ideas. I just didn't want to cram it all into one video. All right, thanks for watching. Remember to be cool to each other when you play D&D, and I'll catch you next time.